Hi everyone! 私はネサと申します. I am from Georgia in the US. I currently study Japanese and music business at the University of Georgia. I chose to study music business because when I was in high school, I began working with bands and I realized that I really had an interest in the music industry. I wanted to learn how the industry worked, not only in order to work with other bands, but also to further help myself in my own goal of becoming a singer. So when I entered university and I realized that a music business course was offered, I immediately decided that that was what I wanted to study. When I was a kid, my grandfather traveled to Japan on a business trip. After his trip, he began to teach me short Japanese phrases, and I just thought it was so cool because it was my first time learning another language. From there, I discovered Japanese music, and in the summer of 2010, I had an opportunity to travel to Tokyo and work with an indies visual kei band called QUAF. It was during this trip that I realized that Japan was a place where I wanted to live. The people, the food, the language, and most importantly, the music. It was all so exciting to me. And at that time, it became my biggest dream to move to Japan and perform my music there. So when I was given an opportunity to study abroad, I quickly accepted it. It was the chance that I had been waiting for to pursue my dream. While I was there were times when it was difficult adjusting to living in a country that was so different from my own, but overall it was an amazing experience and I am so grateful to have done it. It was while I was studying abroad that I met Rio by chance one day when I was waiting for a friend at Shibuya Station. When he found out that I was interested in music, he generously offered to help me learn more about the music scene in Japan. And even though I only had a very short time left in Tokyo at that point, Rio made time to meet with me and would teach me about both performing and things I needed to know about the music industry. And even now that I'm in America, he still continues to talk with me through Skype and teach me. So I'm very grateful to have met him. The differences between American music and Japanese music. It may seem really obvious, but the language clearly is different. It seems like a really obvious point, but you express yourself differently in different languages, so it's actually really important. Also, American pop versus Japanese pop is really different. Japanese pop has a lot of multi-person singing groups that are really popular. America is more about single artists. There was a period when boy bands were really popular in the 90s, and there are still some around, but they've declined a lot in popularity. Also, another big difference is chord progressions. American music typically has a very simple chord progression, often using just 4 chords, whereas Japanese music typically has more complex chord progressions. Differences in Japanese rock and American rock. There's genre differences. In America, southern or country rock is really popular. In Japan, country rock exists, but it isn't very well known to most people. Also, Japan has visual kei, which is a genre that doesn't really exist in America. There is a fan base here for bands who come from Japan to perform in America, but there aren't really any visual kei bands created in America. Also, something that I have personally noticed from going to different shows in both the US and Japan is that there's a very big difference in audience reaction. In the US, the audience tends to be more interactive and loud. In Japan, the audience is much more reserved, and sometimes it's harder to tell if they're really into a show because in the US, everyone is always, clapping their hands or tapping their foot to the beat, even if they don't really know the band that well. But in Japan, I've seen girls just sit down for a band that they might not know, and this doesn't mean that they aren't interested in the band, it's just a different reaction to it. Differences between Japanese art and American art. I would say that one of the biggest differences is cultural and locational influences. For example, in Japanese art, Mount Fuji is often depicted, whereas in American art, you might see something like the Appalachian Mountain Range, or a modern girl in Japan versus a flapper from New York in the 1920s. The subjects are primarily the same, but it's obviously influenced by different cultures. I am so thankful that I was able to participate in this event with you all. I hope that one day I can meet you in person, not just through the internet. Each of you is an amazing artist, and I wish you the best of luck in your futures. I really enjoyed being able to talk to you all today. If you ever visit the US, please come to Georgia. People might tell you to visit Los Angeles or New York, but that's just because those people have never been to Georgia. It's beautiful here, and it's a well-known fact that we have some of the friendliest people and the best fried chicken, and fried vegetables, and fried desserts, basically fried anything. But I promise it's all delicious and you'll love it, so please come. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. Thank you so much for listening.